Hello! How is everyone this really bizarrely warm and wonderful Halloween day? I hope everyone is doing well, and thank you for coming out for this very short reading I'm going to do tonight. First, I would like to begin. When I do readings, those of you who have been here before for my online readings, I do like to start with the land acknowledgement because I feel like this is an actual event as opposed to when I just come on and do some gaming and stuff. So I'm going to read my land acknowledgement for you. Well, it's not mine, it's done by the government. But anyways, I'd like to begin by acknowledging the indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the land which we call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations and to improving our own understanding of local indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that call this nation home. Please join me in a moment of reflection to acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past and to consider how we can each, in our own way, move forward in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. Thank you. So today I am going to read you the story of The Telltale Heart, written by Edgar Allan Poe. And this is going to be the first of 3 readings I'm doing for Halloween, with each Halloween session getting a little longer. Tonight's just going to be short unless someone asks me a lot of questions, and then I'll be here longer. But if no one asks me anything, then I'm reading the story, and that'll be that. Okay? So let me just pull up the story here. It's true. Yes, I've been ill, very ill. But why do you say that I've lost control of my mind? Why do you say that I am mad? Can you not see that I have a full control of my mind? Is it not clear that I am not mad? Indeed, the illness only made my mind, my feelings, my senses stronger, more powerful. My sense of hearing especially became more powerful. I could hear sounds I had never heard before. I heard sounds from heaven, and I heard sounds from hell. Listen, listen, and I will tell you how it happened. You will see, you will hear how healthy my mind is. It's impossible to say how the idea first entered my head. There was no reason for what I did. I did not hate the old man. I even loved him. He had never hurt me. I didn't want his money. I think it was his eye. His eye. His eye was like the eye of a vulture. The eye of one of those terrible birds that watch and wait while an animal dies, and then fall upon the dead body and pull it to pieces to eat it. When the old man looked at me with his vulture eye, a cold feeling went up and down my back. Even my blood became cold. And so, I finally decided I had to kill the old man and close that eye forever. So you think that I'm mad? A madman cannot plan. But you should have seen me. During all of that week, I was as friendly to the old man as I could be, and warm and loving. Every night, around 12 o'clock, I slowly opened the door, and when the door was opened wide enough, I put my hand in, and then my head. In my hand, I held a light covered over with a cloth so that no light showed, and I stood there quietly. Then carefully, I lifted the cloth just a little so that a single, thin, small light fell across that eye. For 7 nights I did this. 7 long nights. Every night at midnight. Always the eye was closed, so it was impossible for me to do the work. For it was not the old man I had to kill. It was the eye, his evil eye. And every morning, I went to his room, and with a warm, friendly voice, I asked him how he slept. He could not guess that every night, just at 12, I looked in at him as he slept. The 8th night, I was more than usually careful as I opened the door. The hands of a clock move more quickly than did my hand. Never before had I felt so strongly my own power. I was now sure of my success. The old man was lying there, not dreaming that I was at his door. Suddenly, he moved in his bed. You may think I became afraid, but no. The darkness in his room was thick and black. I knew he could not see the opening of the door. I continued to push the door, slowly, softly. I put my head in. I put in my hand with the covered light. Suddenly, the old man sat straight up in bed and cried, "Who's there?" I stood quite still. For a whole hour, I did not move. Nor did I hear him again lie down in his bed. He just sat there, listening. Then I heard a sound, a low cry of fear which escaped from the old man. Now I knew he was sitting up in his bed, filled with fear. I knew that he knew I was there. He did not see me there. He could not hear me there. He felt me there. Now he knew that death was standing there. Slowly, little by little, I lifted the cloth until a small, small light escaped from under it to fall upon that vulture eye. It was open, wide, wide open, and my anger increased as it looked straight at me. I could not see the old man's face, only that eye, that hard blue eye, and the blood in my body became like ice. Have I not told you how my hearing has become unusually strong? Now I could hear a quick, low, soft sound, like the sound of a clock heard through a wall. It was the beating of the old man's heart. I tried to stand quietly, but the sound grew louder. The old man's fear must have been great indeed. And as the sound grew louder, my anger became greater and more painful. But it was more than anger. In the quiet night, In the dark silence of the bedroom, my anger became fear. For the heart was beating so loudly that I was sure someone must hear. The time had come. I rushed into the room crying, "Die! Die!" The old man gave a loud cry of fear as I fell upon him and held the bed covers tightly over his head. Still, his heart was beating. But I smiled as I felt that success was near. For many minutes, that heart continued to beat. But at last, the beating stopped. The old man was dead. I took away the bedclothes and held my ear over his heart. There was no sound. Yes, he was dead, dead as stone. His eye would trouble me no more. So I am mad, you say? Oh, you should have seen how careful I was. How careful I was to put the body where no one could find it. First, I cut off the head, and then the arms and the legs. I was careful not to let a single drop of blood fall onto the floor. I pulled up 3 of the boards that formed the floor and put the pieces of the body there. Then I put the boards back down again, carefully, so carefully, so that no human eye could see that they had been moved. As I finished the work, I heard that someone was at the door. It was now 4 o'clock in the morning, but it was still dark. I had no fear, however, as I went down to open the door. 3 men were at the door. 3 officers of the police. One of the neighbors had heard the old man's cry and had called the police. Those 3 had come to ask questions and to search the house. I asked the police to come in. The cry, I said, was my own, in a dream. The old man, I said, was away. He'd gone to visit a friend in the country. I took them through the whole house, telling them to search it all, to search well. I led them finally into the old man's bedroom. As if playing a game with them, I asked them to sit down and talk for a while. My easy, quiet manner made the police believe my story. So they sat talking with me in a friendly way. But although I answered them in the same way, I soon wished they would go. My head hurt, and there was a strange sound in my ears. I talked more and faster. The sound became clearer, and still they sat and talked. Suddenly I knew the sound was not in my ears. It was not just inside my head. At that moment I must have become quite white. I talked still faster and louder, and the sound too became louder. It was a quick, low, soft sound, like the sound of a clock heard through a wall, a sound I knew well. Louder it became, and louder. Why did the men not go? Louder, louder. I stood up and walked quickly around the room. I pushed my chair across the floor to make more noise, to cover that terrible sound. I talked even louder, and still the man sat and talked and smiled. Was it possible they could not hear? No, they heard. I was sure of it. They knew. Now it was they who were playing a game with me. I was suffering more than I could bear from their smiles. And from that sound, louder, louder, louder. Suddenly, I could bear it no more. I pointed at the boards and cried, "Yes, yes, I killed him. Pull up the boards and you shall see. I killed him. But why does his heart not stop beating? Why does it not stop?" And that is the story of The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe. I hope you enjoyed my rendition. I love that story. I think it's the first time I've ever read it out loud in public, so I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, that story scared the hell out of me when I was a kid. I read it, and then my cousin had a record album, and I think it was Boris Karloff. And actually, my friend Sarah had the same album, so I was haunted by it, whether I was at home or visiting my cousins. I think it was a Boris Karloff reading it. And all I remember is there were two pictures on the front. One was the Headless Horseman, and the other was like the dead dude under the floorboards with his eye, the eye like a vulture, staring up. And it scared me. Oh, I'm having internet issues. I wonder if I did during the whole reading. I'm only looking now. Anyways, it scared me so badly. I just was so terrified of that story because it had the beating heart, you know, and we've seen The Simpsons Treehouse of Terror rendition of The Telltale Heart. It's spoofed a lot in horror movies and horror stories, and Simpsons, Family Guy, almost every cartoon has spoofed this story. Even though I think as time goes on and generations shift, Edgar Allan Poe is still a great scary dude. There's certainly a frightening person to be telling tales. I'm sorry, I'm just checking my phone to make sure everything's doing what it should. Yeah, I'm not getting any messages saying like, "Oh my God, your thing's not working." Okay, so it's back to green. So I guess when I turned off the beating heart, everything went kablooey. Anyway, so that's all I'm planning to do tonight, unless anyone has a question for me about anything at all. I'm gonna read The Raven at another reading. That's another favorite one. And actually my friend Sarah, who had that record album, also her and I, in public school, we acted out The Raven as part of I don't know if it was Halloween or theater or literature or what the deal was. Everyone had to do a pastiche or something. I forget what they called it. Yeah, so we did The Raven, which I still remember by heart, but I'm not going to start reciting it now because that's for another day. And and now also on the poster that I did make for this reading, the third reading, I may have to shift the time on because it looks like I'm going to be reading tarot at a party that night at the time that I had originally put on the poster. So please stay tuned for you know, the new time that I'll put out a new poster. And of course you can always catch this again on YouTube or Twitch. I'll have the recordings stay up forever, although Twitch has now do a thing where we have to save the recordings. I haven't figured that out yet, so it looks like I'm taking them down when I do them, but I'm not. I just have to figure out how to put them back up. But one thing at a time, right? Anyways, so 'tis the season to be creepy, and I hope you enjoyed my rendition of The Telltale Heart. Have a fabulous... Oh, I'm double checking the chat. No, oh, thank you, Alex, for coming by. I super appreciate seeing you, Alex McVeigh. Thank you. And yeah, okay, so I'm gonna sign off now, and thank you for coming by. Good night. Stay creepy.